How's everyone doing? Just want to give everyone a couple more minutes to be able to sign in. I know everyone's getting their notifications right now, but welcome to Ask Your Injury Lawyers, where we have some of the top attorneys. They're going to be making themselves available to answer some of the top questions that our community has. And right now, more than ever, I know our community is just filled with a ton of questions, and that's why the team at Buttafuoco Associates has agreed to sort of just volunteer their time, and we're going to be doing this on a consistent basis to make ourselves available to the community to field all of these incredible questions, because we want to really just sew back into the community and help everyone to sort of get healthy together. But I'm going to get right into it today. We've got two incredible guests. We've got Mark Freeley and Shawn Alfano. How you doing, Mark and Shawn? Welcome to the show.
Happy to be here, Rob.
So before we get into the questions, and I'm going to let everyone know, all of our viewers know, I'm going to put these attorneys on the hot seat. So I'm not going to be giving them too many softballs. So they're going to be getting some hard questions from me, but also this is meant to be a community public forum for you as well. So if you guys have any questions as we're having our discussion, we want to encourage everyone to comment their questions below. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be hand selecting some of these questions, and we're going to be addressing them here on the show, which I know is always a dangerous thing, right? Right, guys?
Could be. That's okay. We're ready for it, Rob.
They're ready for it, right? But anyway, so before we get into it, guys, if you could just give everyone some context, let them know who you are, what your role is, how long you've been an attorney, like all that good stuff.
All right. Want me to go first, Shawn?
Sure.
All right. So I've only been practicing 30 years now.
Only?
Actually, I started practicing with Dan. I'm one of the only lawyer friends of mine that have stayed with the same firm since graduating law school in 1989. I started interning with Dan in 1988 as a law clerk, and I stayed on after graduation. And I've been with Dan as a loyal friend and partner here now for 30 years. And I made a great decision. I know it. I think Dan knows it. But listen, in 30 years, we've never had a major fight. We don't yell, we don't kick, we don't scream. We get along, and we both love to help people who are injured in accidents. And that's, at the end of the day, that's what we love to do.
Absolutely. Shawn?
Yeah, well, my name is Shawn Alfano, as you introduced us, and my name is under there. I've been with Buttafuoco Associates now since the year of 2000, so that's 20 years, be my anniversary. And I have been to a few other places before that, but I've made Buttafuoco Associates my home for now 20 years. It's an amazing place to work. I love the opportunities that I have here at Buttafuoco Associates. I'm the senior trial attorney now, and it's a fantastic privilege to be able to take people's cases. Most of them settle, but the ones that don't have to go to trial. And me and my team, which we assign out cases based upon background and experience and things of that nature. So you can have one of various trial attorneys on your actual case at Buttafuoco Associates, but we all work as a team, and we will all be consulting, from Dan, who is very involved in every case, to myself, and to all the other members on our team. And that's what I do these days at Buttafuoco Associates, is pretty much concentrate on the trials.
Incredible. So we've got the senior trial attorney, and we've got the managing partner from Buttafuoco and Associates here with us today, which is pretty incredible. Now, I don't know if you guys are able to see it, but we've got a ton of questions that are already coming in. We haven't even started really yet, and we've got people firing away, and we've got a bunch of people already viewing this live. So this is going to be a really great time together. And again, just to remind everyone who's just joining us right now, we are having this sort of public discussion, open Q&A, where attorneys locally are making themselves available to answer any questions that you guys have. And if you have questions, be sure to post them right now in the comments, and we're going to be sure to be able to get to as many of these questions as possible. And let's get right to it. I'm going to throw you guys a hard one. I know this is a question that some attorneys like to avoid, but we did a poll before the live show, and one of the top questions that people actually proposed to us was, can I switch attorneys? Now, I know that sounds simple, but it's actually a really complicated question. I don't know who wants to go first, but first, can you just answer simply, can a person switch attorneys? I know, I'm sorry for all the attorneys also that are watching. They hate having to answer this question, but again, this is one of the top questions. So I don't know who wants to go first, Shawn or Mark, but good luck.
I'll take a stab about it.
Okay.
Well, the easy answer is yes. You can change attorneys in New York State, a personal injury attorney. If you've retained someone, no matter what you've signed, and you usually sign a retainer to hire a lawyer, you can change attorneys at any time for any reason. It doesn't mean you should in all cases, but a second opinion is always a good thing to get. But you can change attorneys at any time and for any reason, and the retainer does not lock you in. You want to follow up on that, Shawn?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, it's a question I get all the time. I get calls from people, and for whatever reason, they want a second opinion on their case. And, so we will always tell them, yes, absolutely, the retainer's not going to lock you in. You can change attorneys for any reason at any time. The question becomes, is it in your best interest? Should you change attorneys? So it's much like getting a second opinion from your doctor. Many times you will get the second opinion, and the second doctor will say, I agree with your first doctor 100%, and there's really no reason to go against that advice. Now, there are situations where, for whatever reason, it does make sense to change lawyers. So it's easy, it's a simple process, and it's something that we are very experienced at. It won't delay or hurt your case. That's a question that we get quite.
That's actually, it's funny that you just said that. We actually, one of the questions that someone just has, let me see if I can put it up here, is will my case be affected if I switch lawyers?
Right. And that's a great question. I think everybody thinks about that. No, it won't. It will not affect your case. It won't delay your case. It won't hurt your case. Your existing or your soon-to-be prior lawyer is not going to sabotage your case, because that's going to affect them as well. Basically, it's an easy and simple process where if the client doesn't want to get involved in it at all, they don't need to. They can let us handle it. It's as simple as signing a consent to change attorney form. And we send that to the former attorney. We reimburse them for any expenses that they've laid out on the case. At the end of the case, we're going to have to split the legal fee with them, and we'll get into that in greater detail later on. But you won't pay any additional legal fee by changing attorneys. So that's the big thing. It's easy, it's simple, it won't delay, it won't hurt, and you won't pay any extra legal fee.
I've got another question. This is on topic of switching attorneys. I think this is a family member, actually, of Craig, the same last name here. But they just asked, if I move, do I have to switch lawyers?
No. I assume that you're talking about moving a great distance. We have clients that move all over the country. For whatever reason, after a case starts, they have an opportunity in Florida or in California, some other state, and they will always ask us, can I do this, or will it ruin my case? The answer is no. We can. You may have to come back to New York. If there's a trial, you'll definitely have to come back for the trial, and there might be a couple of circumstances where you have to come back. And also these days, we're doing a lot of work as we're doing now through the teleconferencing. So there are times when you can give a statement electronically through Zoom or another application. And so you could stay in Florida, and we could go ahead and work with you, through the application while we're in New York. So it's never a problem.
What would you think would be some of the more common reasons why someone would either need to or be looking to switch attorneys?
Well, the first things that comes to me is the I got a guy response. I was talking to Shawn about this earlier. Everybody's got a guy. You get into an accident, and what's the first thing? You'll have 16 people saying, I got a guy. I got the best guy. I got the best guy. And you're nervous. You don't know what's going on. You feel like you need to get someone involved right away. And boom, you make a quick, rash decision. You don't do your homework. you don't look into the reviews or talk to other people. You just need to get an answer right away. You jump in board, you sign a retainer, and boom, you feel like you're stuck, and you're not stuck, but you may have picked the wrong person prematurely. And you know what? Your gut will tell you along the way that, maybe this wasn't the best decision. And I think that the guy response is one of the reasons. And the second one, and then I'll let Shawn jump in, is that maybe you pick the guy that, does a lot of different things. Maybe he's doing wills and trusts and estates, and maybe he's doing real estate closings, and maybe he's going to court on criminal cases, and he's not really, specializing in accident injury cases. At Buttafuoco Associates, that's all we do. For 30 years, that's all I've done. If you ask me to do a closing, I have to say, I'm sorry, I don't know how to do a closing, but I know exactly what to do if you get into a car accident.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it's sort of like the age-old saying. I mean, if you have an issue with the heart, you're not going to go to a podiatrist, right? You're going to go to a cardiologist.
I know I'm not.
Right. Exactly. Maybe if you guys don't mind speaking to this though, because right now, I know there are some law firms, like many businesses, that are struggling to work because they weren't necessarily set up for this. They didn't have the infrastructure in place to be able to work remotely. And I know, like Mark, if I want to actually ask, wondering if you can sort of speak about this, because I know you had mentioned this to me a few days ago, that you have friends that are working in other firms reaching out to you saying, we can't work on these cases, like, can you help us out? So, this is not maybe just a scenario where you want to switch because you hired the wrong lawyer, but let's talk about current situation is, firms like Buttafuoco Associates that are set up to work remotely. Is this sort of becoming like an asset? Are you seeing firms being able to work together and helping other firms out by taking on their caseload?
I mean, definitely. I mean, we saw early on what was likely going to happen with this coronavirus, and we were proactive. You were involved, Dan was involved, everybody in the firm was involved in making sure that we were going to be ahead of this curve. We were going to get virtual home offices set up for everyone with all the state-of-the-art equipment, and that's what we are now. I mean, we've all got our computers, our scanners. We're able to do e-notarize. We can do DocuSign with retainers or any other legal documents that we need. Just in the last 2 weeks, we've taken 3 or 4 depositions electronically over video. Last week, Dan and myself had a mediation on a very, very large labor law construction site litigation case with multiple attorneys, insurance companies, a judge. It was, with NAM out of Manhattan, and we did it remotely from our homes, and we were already set up to do it, and it went smoothly and flawlessly. So, yeah, I mean, having a lawyer that knows how to do all this, that can keep your case flowing no matter what's happening out there, it's extremely important.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned like some of the things that we're able to do remotely right now, whether it be notarizing, I don't know if you mentioned it, but like depositions and mediations. Now, Mark, we didn't even talk about this before the show, but I'm wondering, because I know we had talked about this in our private meetings, as far as now notarizing, I know a lawyer can notarize things, correct?
Yes, lawyers are automatically notaries as long as you fill out the proper paperwork and get your notary stamp. So,
okay. Do you guys want to have your email boxes flooded with requests at all? Mind if I put up your email addresses right now for people if they have like questions they want to ask you outside of the show?
Oh, absolutely. It's never a problem.
Fine.
All right. See, for our audience right now, and what I like to do is I won't tell the attorneys sometimes things, and I'll just tell them live, and it obligates them. So I had already prearranged to have the emails, but they're ready to go. And see, look, now everyone gets a benefit from my my on-the-spot request, and now you guys are going to have your inboxes flooded with requests. But this is their emails. Mark Freeley and Shawn Alfano. If you guys have any questions outside of the show, you're welcome to email them. But let's just keep on continue, if that's all right. We've got a ton of questions that I want to get to here. Here's one of them. Shawn, this will be for you. You were touching on it a little bit before. But we have Sam, and he says, does a lawyer have to be a trial attorney to handle a personal injury case?
No, absolutely not. It is best to have a trial attorney that is overseeing your case, certainly, but everybody has to learn someplace, and not everyone is or ever will be a trial attorney. But it's very important that whatever firm that you're with actually has trial attorneys that will be looking over the case from its inception, from the very beginning, and take it all the way to the end. So you can have that consultation, and you can see things from the eye of, if this goes to trial, what's going to happen. So that is a problem that I do see sometimes with some firms who they don't have any trial lawyers at the firm. And if the case does have to go to trial, they send it out to a trial attorney. While I don't want to speak, out of turn about a firm that does that, I find that could be a disadvantage. I have been asked to come in on cases at times when from a firm like that. The case, they expected it was going to settle. They hoped it was going to settle. It did not settle. And then they come to a firm like ours that has trial attorneys and says, can you help us? We need somebody to do the trial. And then I pick up the case, and the trial's in 3 weeks. And I have this laundry list of, why wasn't this done? Why wasn't that done? We need disclosures. We need experts. We need the evidence. Where are the records? Why aren't they in evidentiary form that I could show to the jury? So it becomes an incredible, really catch-up kind of, triage to running for this case that has not all the details that are necessary to present it to a jury in just a matter of weeks. Sometimes it's difficult or impossible to do with that very short amount of time. So while you don't need to be a trial attorney to work on a personal injury case, you definitely need to have one close at hand that is looking over it and consulting on it.
That's so important because Shawn's office is right a few doors down from mine in the office. And Shawn and I very, very often collaborate on cases together, especially the larger complex cases, motor vehicle death cases and the construction accident labor law cases and complex liability cases. I will always go to Shawn's office and we'll brainstorm about, hey, listen, we're early on here, but let's look down the road, and have some foresight about what are we going to have to prove if and when the case goes to trial. Because if you're not preparing a case as if it's going to trial, you're doing a disservice to your client. I mean, the insurance company keep lists of lawyers and firms that try cases and those that don't. And, if you're not able to take a verdict and be a successful trial lawyer like Shawn is, and he's an amazing trial lawyer, and he's a phenomenal asset to our firm, and we're very lucky to have him. There's very few guys that put in the time and the work that Shawn does. When he gets involved in a case, he makes sure he does everything he needs to do to make sure that there's a successful outcome for the client, and you can't put a price on that. And he gives a comfort level to the firm, but more importantly to the client, who's, hey, it's their life that hangs in the balance, and they're the ones that really need, are counting on him, and they're lucky to have him in their corner. But if I can get back to changing lawyers just briefly, Rob,
Sure.
I don't want to steal your spotlight here, but reasons and people, why should I change lawyers? And besides, having a lawyer who's, specializes in accident cases. The number one complaint when someone calls me and say, hey, we're thinking about changing lawyers is my lawyer doesn't return my phone calls. In this day and age, I don't know how a lawyer doesn't stay up on communicating with a client. It's so easy. All of our clients have our cell phones. Do you know how many texts I get weekly from clients? Hey, what's going on? Boom, a quick text.
Yeah.
And you know what? They feel like, hey, there's control over the situation.
Yeah.
Clients need control over the situation. Their lives are spiraling out of control. And if their lawyer can't take the time to return a phone call, respond to an email, give a quick text to say, hey, how you doing? When this whole Corona thing came up, we prepared a detailed email letting people know, well, what is going on in the legal system and what's going to take place and what are our thoughts, and let them know that everything is going to be okay with their case. That's really important.
Yes.
And, you know, besides returning phone calls is keeping up to date on the status of a case. You know, I'll have a meeting with a potential new client changing lawyers, and they'll tell me in the first hour I've given them more information than their lawyer's given them in the last year or 2 years. And it's hard to believe that lawyers aren't taking the time, you know, to really do the right thing by clients. I mean, if you're calling the office and you're only speaking to a secretary or staff, if you're getting vague answers about the status of your case and it's always the same, you know, yeah, we're doing things. Well, what things are you doing? You know, have you started a lawsuit? You know, when's my deposition? It's the case on the trial calendar. I mean, what the heck is going on? As a client, you deserve those answers. What do you think, Shawn?
Well, absolutely. That's a very common complaint that we get when we get phone calls that people are asking, can I change lawyers? And so my first question is, well, why? What's going on? Why do you want to change? And very commonly, I'll get that response. I haven't spoken with my lawyer in a year. I mean, that's, you know, ridiculous.
Yeah, I want to chime in here because I think it's you guys are sort of saying that one of the more common reasons why people are switching is because lack of communication. And you know, I know how important communication is for you guys, but you would think that that would be like the bare minimum, right? At the very least, there would be communication between, you know, an attorney and his client. And the fact that that's one of the most, if not the most common reason for people, you know, switching it's a shame. You know, but it's so fortunate that you guys do make yourselves available, you know, and I'm going to speak unbiasedly. For the record, I am not an attorney, and where I work with these guys on a regular basis, I get to sort of see how important, first of all, yes, I want to say from a different perspective, I want to confirm, yes, they in fact are that accessible. I know for a fact, Mark gives out his cell phone number to clients. You know, which is incredible. I am constantly seeing that Shawn is making himself available to people. If I ask him, you know, hey, can you call this person? There's never a second question about it. Shawn is on the phone and talking a person through whatever questions they have, you know, legally. And I know that is also reflective in the fact that we don't, you know, clients, we're talking about switching attorneys. Clients don't switch from us though, you know, and they don't switch, you know, from Buttafuoco Associates. And I mean, look at
Rob, it's a great point because I've been doing this 30 years. It's a very rare occasion that people switch from our firm to another firm. I think the once or twice in 30 years that it's happened to me, it's because a family member or somebody convinced that person that they had a guy that was better than me. And the outcome, who knows what the outcomes are? Are they getting the same level of service or the same level of communication? It's hard to believe that.
Yeah. I just want to show some of the comments, some of the positive comments that are coming in. I think you guys should see this because this is for you guys. You know, people are just so thankful that, you know, we're coming together right now in this sort of like open public forum. But you know, this is you know people in our community. Here's another person right now who's commenting. Thanks for doing this. Here's another person with some really you know, kind words. It's just incredible. I mean, it's just these comments just sort of like rolling in. So I really, first, talking to everyone that's live with us right now, thanks so much for tuning in. We're going to keep on talking right now. But again, if you guys have any questions, here's your opportunity. Make sure you comment right now, any questions that you have, and we're going to be sure to be able to address as many as we can. Shawn, I got a question for you. I'm going to put you on the spot. Here's a question that just came in from Len, and can you discuss the tolling of the SOL, that stands for statute of limitations for anyone who doesn't know, and how closing of courts is affecting current cases? That's a pretty good question.
Sure, it's an excellent question. All right, so right now, the head administrative judge in the state of New York has, because of the coronavirus, has closed the courts to all business except for emergency applications and certain criminal proceedings, mainly arraignments, when someone gets arrested and they have a right to have the charges read to them and to determine whether or not there's going to be any bail set or if they have to be remanded to jail. Short of those few scenarios, the courts are closed right now, and so we cannot file a lawsuit right now. If somebody came to us and said, "I have to file a lawsuit today," could you do that? The answer is simply no. The court has closed that opportunity for us. Now, in recognition of that could put somebody in a severe hardship because there's what's called a statute of limitations that says your case has to be filed within a certain amount of time. So if someone is coming up on that time and the doors are effectively closed, the clerk's not going to accept your case, what do you do? So to address that, there's been an order from the governor, executive order, that tolls the statute of limitations. What that means is it puts it on pause. It says that it's not going to run out. So you don't have to be afraid. Where if we were under normal times and your statute runs out on March 10th, you got a problem. You got to file that case by March 10th or you're done. You have no case. It's over. But under this scenario, this executive order, the governor has said, no, we're going to pause that, and you don't have a problem. When we restart the courts, when we open them back up to business and allow cases to be filed again, we will accept your case, even though it's late, because you were in that period of time where it ran out. So if your statute is within the period of time that the courts are closed right now to filings, when they open it back up, you'll be able to file.
Now, I know that there's a higher risk right now for people to believe that maybe that they can represent themselves in a case, because maybe they feel like, maybe some attorneys or the attorney that they would have used is not accessible, but they still have a matter that needs to be addressed. So they're like, you know what, I'm just going to take care of it on my own. Now, I know someone submitted like a question about this. So is it ever advisable to represent yourself in a personal injury case, even right now, where I know there, everything's sort of for the most part shut down, and you might be tempted to try to do it on your own? What's sort of your opinion on the matter?
My opinion, I believe Mark's as well, is absolutely not. I mean, there are so many landmines and so many pitfalls in a case that for somebody who is not experienced at it, you're doing yourself a disservice. It could be dangerous. You don't even know what you don't know. So there are all kind of things that have to be done. Every case is unique. Do you have who the case is against? Is the case against a municipality? Well, what kind of municipality? Is it the federal government? Is it the transit authority? Is it the city? What city is it? Because every city has their own local rules. So it's incredible the variations that occur even on the same exact case. Somebody tripped and they fell and they broke their wrist. Same fact pattern. It could happen in 100 different locations with 100 different defendants, and you will have dozens and dozens of variations on that affects that case because of the local rules.
And also, you know what? Even if you had a really easy slam dunk, hit in the rear injury with a fracture, that one of us could handle in our sleep. The reality of the situation is, and insurance companies aren't in the business of doing the right thing. Yeah. They're not in the business of giving you every dollar that you're entitled to.
Right.
They only do it because we force them to do it, because there's a threat of litigation, a threat of having depositions, a threat of getting to a jury and having a trial and having a jury make a large award. So it's the threat of litigation. And if you're on your own with no legal experience, the insurance company is going to be like a shark in the ocean that smells blood. I mean, you're not going to get what you deserve. That's my opinion. They're not going to say, oh, you know what? John's a great guy. He got hurt, and let's give him every dollar he's entitled to. In 30 years of me doing this, I just don't see that.
Yeah. No, there is actually one auto insurance company right now that sends claims examiners to people's homes and offers them some money to settle their case right on the spot. And why do they do that? Because they're kind? No, they're doing that so they can try to buy the case for as cheap as they possibly can, and hope that you don't see a lawyer who knows what they're doing, because then they're going to have to pay a lot more money.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Now, you used the example of a motor vehicle accident. Personal injury law is not just car accidents, right? It encompasses, it's an umbrella term. So we had someone ask, I'll put it up here, and they said, do you handle slip and fall cases? So let's use this question as a way of answering, what is personal injury and what does it entail?
Well, I mean, personal injury is anytime someone becomes injured. It's not always the case, when you're injured. There's things you need to prove in every type of situation. So, a car accident, if you're stopped at a light, you get hit in the rear, there's, 100% liability. If it's a question of who had the green light, it might be 50-50. You still have the burden of proving that someone did something wrong. You have to prove that someone's negligent. So if it's a car accident, did they follow the rules of the road? If it's a premises liability case where you slip or you trip, you have to prove it's a dangerous condition, that the landowner was aware of it and they had time to correct it, unless you can prove that they actually created the defective condition, right? You also have to prove that the injury is related to the accident, right? Not something that you had before. We handle a lot of, one of the things I specialize in is construction accident cases. So anytime anyone in the trades is injured on a work site, a job site, a demolition, a renovation, any type of situation where trade work is being done, there's always a possibility of having what's called a third party case. You're always going to have your workers' compensation case. But in addition to that, you may have a third party case where we can go after the general contractor or the owner if they didn't abide by certain labor laws that New York State has established for the safety and protection of workers who are performing construction related activities. And those can be very, very big cases. We also handle medical malpractice cases, and that would be something that our partner Jim McCarthy specializes in.
Yeah, we're fortunate to actually have someone who specializes in medical malpractice.
Yeah, and Jim's great. I mean, they're very difficult cases. They're very time consuming. They're very expensive. And Jim's been with us now. He's a partner with us, and 28 years of doing medical malpractice cases. He's very well known in that small medical malpractice niche community. Yeah. And anyone that has a potential malpractice case would be well advised to reach out to Jim, because he takes them all very seriously. If he gets involved in the case, he's like a pit bull. And he'll take it to the doctors. If there's liability, again, there's got to be liability. Of course. Just because you have a bad result, if something bad happens because the doctor treated you, doesn't mean there's medical malpractice. There has to be a departure of common accepted medical practices, and we have to get an expert to say that there was medical malpractice. That's actually a good point, and I don't want to veer off too much off topic, because I know we're going to be bringing Jim on in a later show to talk about all things medical malpractice. But right now this is a very hot topic because of we've got our medical systems that are being overwhelmed right now, and and a lot of people have questions. We've got some people asking some questions right now with regards to the medical facilities and nursing homes and whatnot. How do you feel that what's going on right now is going to impact medical malpractice cases in the future? Well, I can tell you there's going to be, with regards to treatment for COVID, they're going to give immunity to doctors and hospitals for mistakes that happen while treating a patient during COVID. If it's unrelated treatment, treatment unrelated to COVID, they're not. There'll still be medical malpractice claims to pursue. But we're still waiting for all the details. But there's likely going to be immunity if it's COVID-related treatment. But Jim, let's wait for the expert, Jim McCarthy, to come on here and talk more about that. I don't want to steal his sunshine there.
Just sort of closing this out and getting back to the first sort of topic of our conversation, switching attorneys. When do you think would be the right time, or the best time, or is there a best time for someone to switch attorneys? Because, like I was saying before, for those that are just tuning in now, we did a poll prior to the live video here, and one of the top questions was with regards to switching attorneys. So when should someone switch? When would be the best time to switch? Can you just sort of run the gamut and explain that?
I'll jump in a little bit. I'd say do a gut check. I mean, we all know when people are treating us right, when people are doing the right thing. If you have that warm and fuzzy feeling that your lawyer gives you, maybe you don't need to change, right? If you're hearing crickets and you can't get a real transparent answer about what's going on and the status of my case, it's all the time. What's the status of my case? You should be able to find that out. Lawyers should be happy to give that to you if they're doing what they're supposed to do. If they're not doing what they're supposed to do, maybe you're getting a secretary calling you back saying, everything's fine. Well, what does that mean, right? So if you don't have the warm, fuzzy feeling, the sooner the better. Because the longer you drag it on, the harder it is for a new lawyer to get involved. The longer the more things that lawyer has done to make problems with the case, the more problems the new lawyer has to fix, the less likely the new lawyer, who you really probably want to get involved, they may not want to get involved if it's been too long of a time. Mm-hmm. So the sooner you consult, get that second opinion, the sooner the better.
All right, so you guys will be familiar with this. Any closing statement that you guys would like to make, Esquires?
Well, for me, go ahead, Shawn. You go ahead.
I was just going to say, just to follow up on what Mark was just saying. The bottom line is it's a relationship that you have with that law firm, with the attorney, with the paralegals, with the staff that you're speaking to and dealing with week in and week out about something that's very, very important to you, which is your legal case. And so if you do not feel good about that relationship, that is the time to say, let me seek a second opinion and see if maybe I'm just have too high of expectations, which happens sometimes. Sometimes I'm able to speak to somebody and say, look, I think the other attorney, there's nothing more that I can do for you. So I only want to get involved in a case if I believe that I can actually help that person and do something to make their situation better. And there are times when after I speak to them, I know that the attorney is doing everything that they can for them. There's nothing that I'm going to be able to do that's any better. So if that's the case, we're not going to advise you to change attorneys. However, if you're having that feeling, it's the best time to at least reach out to another firm, to another lawyer, and to ask, what is your opinion on this? Because if I can do something that I believe that can improve your situation, I will definitely step in and do that.
I will tell you, I'm going to paint a picture with the two typical scenarios when I have a lawyer switch over to me, have a client switch over to me, and I do everything necessary to get the prior lawyer files. Two scenarios. One, the lawyer's had the file 6 months, a year, 2 years, and I get a file, about that thick, right? There's a few pieces of paper in it.
Yeah.
And so thank goodness the person changed lawyers, because nothing's been done.
No
right?
work.
You take the file and you bring it in your office, you go, and you blow the dust off of it because it sat on the shelf. That's all it did, was sat on a shelf.
Yeah.
They raced to sign the case up and put it on a shelf, and they forgot about it.
Mm-hmm.
It happens a lot.
Yeah.
The other scenario is where I get this big box of junk, a big disaster of a mess. And I look at it and I'm like, this lawyer had no clue what they were doing.
Yeah.
Either the lawyer wasn't supervising the people working on the file,
Sure,
or the people working on the file were not lawyers.
Yep.
Because there was no game plan. There was no way this case was ever going to result in a favorable outcome for the client because of the mess the file was in. So we'll immediately go through that with a fine-tooth comb and have a open and honest conversation with the client about, okay, I'm sorry, but this is the condition of the file. This is what's been done, or really what's not been done. This is what we need to do. Here's our game plan. Here's how we're going to fix it for you and get you the results that you truly deserve. And I love doing that for people because I feel bad that people, they rely on lawyers to do the right thing. And there's just too many people out there that just don't.
Yeah. Well, listen, guys, I want to thank you so much for carving out some time out of your day, because I know that you guys are actually still working on all the cases. Our firm, we were fortunate. We were already set up. We had the infrastructure to go remote. So it was a matter of just flicking the switch for us. And our team was able to sort of still operate. And we have our regular team Zoom meetings every single day. So before we go out, if Shawn and Mark, if you could just speak to the nature of, as far as our team and the cases that we have, I know I just said it, but from your perspective, are you guys still working on the cases? Are things moving along actively? Just give your sort of closing remarks on that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, from my end, I'm really as busy as I ever was. A large part of what I do is prepare for trials. So even though there's no trials happening right now, I know I have my schedule that's coming up on the docket. And so I'm actively involved in preparing those for trial. Also in having contact and communication with my clients every day, emails, telephone. We've done some teleconferencing as well. I've had mediation, which was successful, and I got my case, my client's case settled last week.
I'm going to interrupt you. So so as a law firm, you guys are still settling cases for clients?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah. I've settled quite a few cases in the time that this stay-at-home order has come down, because I have everything on my computer. I'm dealing with the adjusters, with lawyers that are all over the state. Yep. We have lawyers that we're dealing with in other states. The insurance company people we have to deal with are spread out throughout the country. So it's not unusual on a normal day last year that I would be speaking with adjusters that are in California, that are in Massachusetts, that are all over the country. So it's really business as usual. The only thing that's different is that the courthouse is actually closed right now. However, just today, I see that an order has come down from the administrative judge that the day after Easter, so that's coming up very soon. I forget the exact date, but I remember
the 13th.
The 13th.
Monday the 13th.
Yep, Monday the 13th. The courts are going to go virtual for our type of cases, for the clients that we handle for torts. And and we're set to go. I mean, you have to have, your video conferencing technology set up in order to access the virtual, what they call virtual courts now. And for us, that's going to be starting in just 8 days. When is that? No, 10 days.
Yeah.
It's funny. I just had this conversation with an insurance adjuster this morning, because I see some of the insurance companies are trying to take a little bit of advantage of the situation, thinking, they'll make you a settlement offer and say, oh, your client should take it because, who knows how long this is going to drag out. And, better have a few bucks in your pocket now than get what they really deserve. I'm like, I don't think it's really going to take that long. And I was able to tell her, listen, I just got an email. The courts for the torts, and that's what we do. These, personal injury cases or torts, they're going to start operating on Monday, the 13th, which is great. They're going to start, scheduling conferences. They're going to start reviewing motions that have been pending and get decisions out. And they'll have more time to do that because they're not doing in-person conferences. And things are going to start moving. Listen, our office has already done a handful of video depositions. Like I said, I did a video mediation last week. I just scheduled 2 more for my cases for April. So things are moving. I'm talking to insurance carriers every day. I think I emailed with about 10 or 15 clients today before we did this, but texted with a couple of them. So really, like Shawn said, things are really, they're not stagnant. Things are not, they're not just sitting around. Our office especially is able to move things forward for our clients because we saw this coming and we were ahead of the curve.
Yeah. Well, listen, right now, I just want to thank again our audience for tuning in and staying with us. I think we've been on now almost 50 minutes. We've got a tremendous amount of good feedback and great questions that came in. To anyone that we weren't able to get to your questions, I do apologize, but this is not our only time together. We're going to be trying to do this as often as possible. We've got a team of attorneys that's going to be participating in this. And I know there were some other questions related to medical malpractice that we didn't really get to, so we'll get to that with Jim McCarthy. And we also have some other questions relating to patents, certain things that might be unconstitutional. Maybe some of these are things that we can talk about at a later show. But we do want to thank everyone for tuning in. And I'm going to speak for Mark and Shawn, and you guys can maybe even speak for yourself. But I'm going to speak for them. I know these guys, and I know they absolutely love what they do. They love people and they love helping people. And so if anyone is in a position where they have any other questions, I know these guys would be eager to help any of you guys out. So I'm going to put their email addresses up one more time. So you guys anyone's welcome to write it down, but you can also go back on the replay. We're going to be leaving this video up for everyone. So if there is something that you sort of missed that you want to go back to, that's fine. If you caught this live show a little bit late, that's fine. When it's done, you can go ahead and just on the replay, watch the whole thing again. But I think it's an important thing for everyone to take down your email address, because if you're saying that you're an accessible attorney, we're going to prove it right now. And we're going to publicize your personal emails so that everyone can, in fact, contact you. And this is the contact information for the firm. I know someone was asking if we handle slip and fall cases. So for that individual, if you're yourself or know someone who is injured due to some type of slip and fall, there's the information for you guys to.
Hey, Rob, could I add something?
Yeah, please.
All right. There's always a silver lining in things. And so, as you know, Rob, I'm pro bono counsel for Last Chance Animal Rescue.
Mm-hmm.
And so we've seen, I've been volunteering with them and running adoption events for them for 7 years now with my daughter. We've seen an amazing influx of new foster families because we're foster based. The dogs live in our homes until they're adopted. And so if you've ever thought about fostering a dog, or you're looking to adopt a dog, which is a great time. We're all home. I know I have two, and they provide me great company during this time.
This is a perfect opportunity to do that. I agree.
Yeah, I mean, you can go to lcarescue.org, and you can fill out a foster application. You can fill out an adoption application, and you can see all the dogs and cats and kittens and puppies that we have available for adoption. And if you have questions about that, you can always email me too. But the silver lining is, besides getting, I think in the last 2 weeks, 20 or 30 new foster families, we've had an amazing number of adoptions.
That's great.
I know I had a foster dog 2 weeks ago, Rosie, and she's been adopted to an amazing family. And I can tell you, it's great for family bonding.
Yep.
And it's the feeling you get when you foster a dog, and you might feel sad when it goes to another home, but without you, the dog never would have got to that home. And that's a great feeling. So just want to end it on a nice positive.
No, listen, Mark, I actually appreciate you saying that. You know me, I'm also a big animal advocate as well. I've got my mini farm here at my house. I've got 15 chickens. I've got 3 goats and a partridge and a pear tree. But before this, everyone called me the crazy chicken guy. But now everyone's calling me saying, hey, how do I become a chicken guy? So I've become the most popular guy in the block. But yeah, Mark, what you do and what you've been doing for the past 7 years is absolutely extraordinary. I think it's so important. And I applaud you. I've always applauded you. I've come down to some of your events. And I agree. This is the perfect opportunity. If everyone's saying that in the past they've had no time, now everyone has nothing but time. So there's no excuse. I think everyone should reach out to you. And how do you like that? I was quick on the draw, and I was able to get that website right up there.
I expect nothing less from you.
Oh man. But also listen, both of you guys are incredible. Honestly, thank you so much again for taking your time to answer some of these questions. These are some of the top questions on everyone's hearts in our community. And I think that, part of of healing our community and becoming a healthier community, I think, is for all of our community to come together in moments like this and help each other out. And you guys are leading the charge. So I really appreciate that.
We are stronger
Thank you,
together.
Rob.
We are absolutely stronger together, without a doubt. One more time, this is their email addresses. Everyone's welcome to email them. This is the contact information for Buttafuoco Associates. Our entire team is actually still working, right? Everyone is still working.
True.
From our receptionist up to the attorneys that you can see here. And so if anyone has any questions, please reach out. We're happy to help. So again, guys, thanks for tuning in for Ask Your Injury Lawyers, where we bring in some of the top attorneys to answer some of the top legal questions. So thanks again for tuning in. Mark, Shawn, take care, guys. And
have a great night, everybody.
Take care, and we'll see you on the next show. Take care, everyone. Signing off.
Bye-bye.